So here's the thing: Santa Claus was never actually meant to be a person. What he actually represents is the Amanita muscaria mushroom, also known as fly agaric, from Northern Europe.
Fuck? All right, guys, welcome to Put Up or Shut Up, the Christmas edition. While no one else is looking very Christmassy, I'm feeling extra Christmassy, feeling extra slothy right now. I'm gonna let you guys meet the guests now. We've got DeBears Niner, Thorin, and Mr. Moses, Jason O'Toole himself. How you guys doing this fine holiday season?
Doing good. Doing good. Yeah, everyone's staying warm except for Duncan. Seems pretty cold over there.
I'm doing great. So I just hope that you'll have a good time, Moses.
Oh, good. Oh, nice pun. Not bad. All right, starting off hot.
I win the intro. Look.
All right, that's a point for. All right, no, I'm kidding. All right, guys, you know the rules. I think you guys are ready to play. You're ready to step into the gauntlet, which is a point-based debate show related to current CS:GO topics. So, without any further ado, let's take it to question one. Which team was the biggest surprise of the ELeague Major Qualifier? And you know what, Eric? Let's go ahead and give you the start.
All right. Well, I think it was NIP. Not the fact that they may have not qualified because they're one of the few teams that should have qualified, but the way that they lost to Vega is just so heartbreaking. The 16-2 makes you wonder what's happening with this team. What's going on? Is there mental? Is there some behind the scenes we don't know about? Because, like, I can expect them losing maybe 16-14, 16, 13 or some, like, close scoreline. Like a 16-2 and just getting knocked out 1-3 in the ELeague Major Qualifier. That's just it's heartbreaking.
Let's go, Thorin. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I actually take a Vega Squadron because I mean, this is a team where I didn't even know the players on this team. Most people actually had them written off because if you remember, CIS Minor had less talent than ever before because obviously Gambit and Flipside and Na'Vi are already in the Legends spot anyway. So everyone assumed the teams that come out of the CIS Minor are going to finish in last place. So I actually had Vegas Squadron because not only did they beat NIP, I mean, they also beat CLG, but that was less of an accomplishment. But beating NIP, they smashed them. It was 16-2. And that was starting out on T side of Cash. That's like a map that if you're a really good team, that can become a CT side of map. And obviously NIP, famously with this lineup, was one of the best in the world on it. So I think you'll be hard pressed to find more of a surprise than that result.
Okay, Jason, let's hear it. 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's a godsend for this one because coming into this major, it was pretty big underperformance. They got knocked out early of DreamHack Winter, where they lost to Gambit there, who looked pretty okay. But overall, coming into this, they've been really struggling against some of the lower tier teams and definitely against some of the higher tier teams. But just the way they won it, I mean, you talk about Prodax looked like he was struggling with mid game calling. Tactically, they looked sound. JW was the old JW. No one saw that coming. He didn't even look that good towards the end of Fnatic. So his resurgence was incredibly surprising. And that team qualifying 3-0. I don't think anyone had them, if qualifying at all, no one had them going undefeated over G2, Dignitas, and Hellraisers.
All right, guys, let's open the forum. You've got 4.5 minutes to present your side. By all means, go at it, Eric.
All right, so Vegas Squadron, okay, they're a surprise because they beat some good teams. They beat NIP 16-2. That's definitely the biggest surprise. But again, this is CSGO. It's random. There will be new teams emerging, new talent coming up in this next year, and you're going to see teams that aren't used to winning some games. Like for example, Godsend. If you watched the show a couple times before, I said JW is on the rise again. He's going to come back. I saw it coming. Everyone here heard me see it coming. I mean, it's just a matter of time before Godsend starts winning some stuff. Now, I mean, NIP, on the other hand, it's like the way it's just so hard to imagine them not being at this
Eric,
next major.
It's NIP. This has been a consistent thing where they have like one good event, they go out and win it, and then they drop the bomb. We've been tearing NIP apart with this roster for like years now. This is entirely expected out of them. They are that team who they won Oakland, they blew their load a little bit early, and then they come out flat here. It doesn't work like that. That's something that always happens. Vegas Squadron is like surprising, but they in one match they beat NIP. They had a couple surprising stars, and by the way, when you win 16-2, like it's really, while it's impressive they won the match, it's not an impressive feat to win 16-2 by any means. Just because you could just catch that momentum, you just snowball, and you could see NIP broke. I mean, it wasn't any kind of thing that Vegas Squadron was doing. They just broke mentally and just checked out of the game 5 rounds in. So that's definitely not that surprising to me.
Thing is, I mean, unlike your answers, Eric, CS isn't random. Actually, there's a lot of patterns to it, a lot of qualities to it. And the thing is, when you look at NIP, this is the problem. You have to look at the format. Yes, if this was a long form tournament and they had playoffs and they were already into the best of three, yeah, maybe we would pick them to come top four. But you look even at Oakland that they won. They narrowly got out of the group stage there with best of ones. You look at ESL Pro League when they went there, narrowly got out of the group with best of ones. You look at ELeague, they got out in second place. They lost the best of one to Virtus Pro in the winners match. So this is a team that in best of one has not actually done that well. Like they've always been borderline, even at their best moments. And in this particular format, it was all about the pick ban, and NIP is famously poor at pick banning correctly and getting the opponent to the weaker maps. And in terms of Moses, I mean, Moses tried to argue there about the fact that, you know, anyone could just win 16-2. And no, NA teams aren't winning 16-2. They're never catching the momentum and going off, you know. Doesn't happen. They just like win through luck, essentially. Back to Eric's answer there. No,
I don't know. Optic won 16-4 over FaZe, so I mean that happens.
Don't seem to remember that happening. Okay, so now the thing is,
you can't just ignore the points.
That didn't happen. So again, Eric will back me up on that. So actually, I predicted on our show, Moses, that Godsent would be the team that had the upset potential. I actually saw maybe it could happen. So here's the thing. It's not like they did it in the most insane fashion and just bodied all the best teams. Like they had a couple of good wins, but I think it wasn't ridiculous that they could get out, you know, whereas no expert in the entire world even had Vegas Squadron on the radar, never mind beating NIP on cash.
I mean, it's okay that, yeah, it's nice that a new team's kind of emerging. They're beating teams, but again, they didn't even win. They did not move on to the point of the tournament is to qualify for the major. I mean, it's nice to win a match, though, but you didn't qualify.
The big thing about Vega, I mean, we see this all the time. We saw it with Ty Lue back then. Like when these new teams come in, yeah, they have some stars that surprise, and yeah, they have a good game, but like that's it. They're a one-time upset. They don't have anything consistent. We're seeing, especially when you come into the scene right now with so many tournaments, teams don't have time to look into every single team they're going to be going up against. Teams don't have time to look into how Vegas Squadron is playing or who they're beating or who their stars are. Therefore, you can't prepare for them. So these kinds of things do happen, and it shouldn't be that surprising at this point because we see teams getting these one-map upsets over top teams or big teams, and then not really doing anything moving forward. And that's because they just don't have any kind of consistency to them. It's just a flash in the pan. I mean, we have to start expecting this to happen in more and more tournaments as the years go on.
I mean, the thing is, though, it said which is the biggest surprise. And if you actually were to use like mathematics as they do in gambling, for example, and put the odds would be way, way higher for NIP to not make it out of the tournament than it would be for Vega to 16-2 them on one map. So just mathematics and sort of God are on my side. Communicating.
No one is going to bet 16-2 any map. I mean, more people bet that NIP was going to advance. They're going to advance.
No, I mean, NIP, that was just, they were just bad.
All right. Well, while I'm going to have to go with Eric and Thorin between these two for the point. Sorry, Jason. I mean, obviously these two are the biggest surprises of the event. And I mean, is Vegas Squadron a one-off? We don't know, but NIP not making the major, no one could have seen that coming. So believe it or not, I believe Mr. Stromberg's gonna get his first point first in the game. God bless.
No,
somehow he's done it.
Starting off hot, baby. Get ready.
I think it's the hat, man, and maybe if you guys would have followed suit. Not a problem. I'm sure you guys will somehow miraculously get more points than Eric. I don't even know how that happens every single episode.
It's just random.
It's random. All right, let's go to question 2. What active player would you like to see step back into a coaching role? And let's start with you, Mr. Shields.
Okay, I'm going to pick Existence, the former in-game leader of what's currently G2, formerly Titan, formerly Very Games, because he's someone who has probably the most experience of any traditional in-game leader, going way back into Source. His teams in Source were some of the best of all time. There was one period where they won something like 40 lands out of 44 or something ridiculous. In CSGO, his teams pretty much until this year were always considered very good. They always were getting out of groups, always going deep in playoffs. He's always had that tactical style. And if you look where he's from, the French region, they've famously got two teams there, which over the last year or so especially have
Go on. The timer actually ran out. We do have one of those.
Pretty standard with Duncan, not following rules,
Okay.
just talking about nothing. No substance in those 30 seconds.
The quick version
It's
is just basically that, like, especially not only does he have the pedigree to be a good in-game leader, but in his region, both of those teams desperately need some kind of coaching aspect, and he would be the obvious person to bring in.
Okay, with that being said, Moses, I'm going to give you an additional half a second for all the talking Thorin just did.
Yeah, great. All right, my player I actually picked that I want to see retire and move to coaching is actually Hiko from Team Liquid, and it has nothing to do with his playstyle. It has everything to do with his mentality in the game. He's one of the first players, and he's still one of the only players in North America that is treating this like a business, that is saying, I want to win, and I want to win right now, and I'm going to do everything it takes, whether it's cutting friends, whether it's getting better players. He's the one going out and actually trying to do these things. So that's the kind of mentality I want to have a coach in North America have, and it's still onto the younger players and still onto the next generation of players. And he can always hire some people to help out with tactics, but that mentality is the key point, what you want moving forward in North America.
Eric, that's going to be a tough one to follow up on. Let's hear it.
So, I want this as a temporary coaching thing. I want Get Right to actually step back and try to figure out his life, because it sounds like after this loss or this tournament, he looked like his health is bad. He's just posting stuff on all these social media and how he has to rethink things. So I think it's good for him as a personal, as a person, just to step back, kind of figure out your life and kind of figure out what to do.
Okay, I'm going to go with, that whole thing about saying I had hope for Eric. It's slowly dwindling. But I'm going to open the forum now. You guys have 4.5 minutes, excuse me. Let's hear what you got.
Right, well, let's just start off with the Bears here, because the question
he needs
was
to figure out his life, doesn't he?
Question was who should become a coach, not who should go to rehab. Like, it's not about taking a semester of your life off to kayak around the world and find spirituality in India. We're talking about becoming a coach. So first of all, who's going to be a coach while he's doing this? Or just going to be some coaches like, coach, what are you doing this game? Oh, I'm just trying to figure out who I am, man. My life's all bad.
Well, that's right. He's an important player, though. He's a very important key player in this game. He's going to play for major success.
He's one of the star players.
You can teach some other noob to lurk and toss smokes here and there.
Get out. You can't just take one of the best players still currently playing the game, despite this being a very rough, the qualifier being very rough on him and his team. He's still one of the best players out there. You can't take him off that roster with that identity, with the kind of impact that he can have. So he's not done yet. He's still got plenty left in the tank. So I see no reason to pull him out. Duncan said Existence, which on paper that seems like a very good option, but fact is Existence tactically, the French teams have lost faith in his tactics, and he's always been someone who needs to have he's like that person who needs to have that set structure that he controls. He's the puppet master. That style doesn't work anymore. There's a reason for that. There's too much individual talent out there that needs to be freed up, that needs to feel comfortable, and no team has really been able to show that Existence can make them feel comfortable in his system. The players struggle on him. Shux doesn't want to play underneath him, and NBK doesn't want to play under him. Some of these stars, Kenny doesn't want to play under him anymore. So all the best players that have played under him, they don't even want him as a coach or an in-game leader.
So the problem is, if Hiko becomes the coach, first of all, he's not really suited to coaching in CSGO, because coaching in CSGO is about tactical execution, designing the balance of the team. He's not someone who's ever done that in his career. In fact, every time he's taken over being the in-game lead, he's pretty much quit the next event or a month later. There also, you got to add in that he's someone where he's not actually a very forthright person. The way he does stuff is, he figures out which players he's going to stick with, and he gets the new players in. He doesn't just come up and be like, right, got to have a team meeting, you're out of order, you got to change this. He's not really that sort of a leadership kind of person in that sense. So even if he does have this quality of we'll do anything to win, I don't think his skill set is suited at the moment for that. And also, coaches do not get paid that much, and he is incredibly, how do you say, money hungry.
I'm not. I kind of say what Thorin's saying is that Hiko. I love Hiko, okay, but in the last 6 months, not
as much as he loves money, mate.
His team's been bad. His team's been really bad. He's been focusing a lot on streaming, and as you said, the business side of things. When you're a coach, you have to put 12 hours a day for his team. He won't have time for his other business opportunities. So I mean, I don't think
let's be honest. There's coaching role still has to get figured out. There's still a lot of different ways you can be a coach, and I think that's one of the things where he comes in as a coach and he'll be able to. I mean, that I want his mentality. I want that to be the mentality that he instills when he's making roster moves and he's making changes. That's what I want. You can always, especially with an organization like Liquid that has money and has the capabilities, you hire extra analysts to help you out. You have to be part of the game plan, but you don't have to be the one sitting down for 12 hours a day watching demos. I want him to be able to tell these players to get their shit together, to be to want to win, to do everything it takes to win. I want him to be that example at the top of the organization that is making moves. I want someone who's going to be doing this behind the scene as well. I want it to be quiet. I don't want it to be showboating. I don't want it to be this loud publicity thing. He goes behind the scenes. He's wheeling and dealing. That's what I like out of Hiko.
Even though Moses says that, like the French players, they don't respect existence, that's as an in-game leader. I actually know that a bunch of those French players in both those teams, they're desperate for someone to take over the coaching aspect. And like some of them have asked me to do it. That's how desperate they're on the ledge right now, guys. Let's bring them back.
That is definitely on the ledge.
So I know that if they had the chance, bearing in mind as the in-game leader, he can't talk all the time. He can't be the in-game leader. He's just going to be the coach, and he's just going to have those timeouts to give them the little tweak that they need so that they can stop happy baiting. I mean, just do tactically what they need to do.
But even though he won so many lands in Source, I mean, this is CSGO. Pretty similar game, but still different. So I don't know how that'll
Yeah, good point, actually, because all we've proven there is that Existence has some experience with sort of like coaching aspects, whereas the two players that you guys mentioned have zero in any game. So yeah, you're right. Good point. Thanks, Harry.
Holy shit. Well, with that being said, I mean, Eric, I'm not even going to comment on your answer. That was just absolutely ridiculous, per the usual. But I mean, when I do look at Moses' argument with Hiko, I do appreciate that sort of GM approach. I do appreciate that hands-on, aggressive nature to get it right. But at what point is there not enough tactical approach to that? Whereas what Existence would bring to the table would be more of a tactical approach in game, would be able to provide more. And somehow Eric was able to reinforce Duncan's argument indirectly, but directly at the same time. Yes, so there's the assist from Eric. And I mean, I have to go with Thorin and Existence on this one. No hard feelings, Moses, but I do appreciate that mindset.
I'm starting to see. No one told me when I came on this show that it would be rigged.
Hey, there's a reason these two are on it every week.
You do an electoral college recount at the end, Moses. You could get that.
Yeah. I'm getting electoral college always wins.
All right, so number 3, question 3. Who is your MVP of 2016? Jason Moses O'Toole.
I mean, this one's just flat out easy. It's coldzera, without a doubt. One of the most important pieces in that team, the Luminosity and SK. Throughout the year as well, he only had one negative rating at events. I mean, only one event where he was below 1.0 on the HLTV rating, and that was actually at Katowice, where they made the finals. He was at a 0.95 rating. But everything else, he's just been a dominant force. He's been so very good. He is the main reason that system even works. I mean, there's Fallen who actually calls and creates it, but without coldzera, there's not enough power behind that kind of attack tactical system where they'll be able to actually win these games. So him as a player, he's been amazing this whole year.
All right, Eric.
Well, I mean, let's go with Brazilian CS here. I picked Fallen because, I mean, he produced the most consistent results in all of 2016. They were definitely one of the top teams the whole year. I mean, every tournament, he brought it. His system's completely unique to his team, and he used his players the best as they can be, as you can see with coldzera. I mean, he played an amazing year, and I don't think he can just hop on any other team to produce those same effects.
Go on, Mr. Shields.
Okay, so I picked Device from Astralis. You look at his numbers across the year, and he was in a much worse team than almost anyone who would be a candidate for this sort of a position. And yet he had superstar numbers event in and event out for all of 2016. Even if his team went out in the groups, or even if they had like a shocking upset at the hands of someone else, didn't matter the map, it didn't matter the opponent. He always put up those superstar numbers. And he did it, like I say, in any sort of circumstances. And in a team that had numerous roster changes across the year.
Well, on that note, I'm going to open the floodgates, and you guys can just bash on each other per usual. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, all good things for Fallen, but I mean, there's one critical flaw that he has to being the best player of the year, and that's the fact that his system. I mean, look at what's happened ever since Zeus left that team. They've been on that decline ever since they won the major. So I'm actually really curious if how much of it was actually Fallen, how much of it was Zeus coming in. You'll remember they started getting dominant when he was the coach with Fallen. So I think that system is actually more of a group effort between the two of them. And now that Zeus is gone, I think Fallen's really struggling to keep this team together, to keep them succeeding. Device had a good year, but like the big thing, I mean, obviously championships, you have to weigh those more. Cold has 2 of them. Device has 0. They struggled for most of the year. The team itself looked very poor. And notably, even towards the end of the year, you think back to ELeague Season 2, Device has actually gone missing in some key matches to win them some championships. So yeah, he's had a good year if you look at the statistics overall, events overall, but in key matches, he kind of tends to drift off still.
Yeah, I kind of, I'll say yes to this Device thing is because Astralis started to win when you noticed that her team was supporting Device a little more. So I'd say it's more the team effort that made Device look better than he really is. And for coldzera, oh yeah, he's definitely contended for one of the best players of the year, esports player of the year. But again, it's a system. Like SK was one of the most consistent teams of the whole year. Like as you said, falling off from a tournament, they went from first place to third place in some tournaments. Like they literally had top 4 finishes in almost every single major tournament. And because it's a system with Fallen. As soon as they got Taco and FNX, they went to second place.
This is best player of the year, Eric. Not best leader of the year.
Well, it's a system. It's a system. Okay, it's like. A coach, in-game leader is a player. He's part of the role. Like, you could literally put Nico, Thorin's favorite player, for coldzera, and they'd probably have pretty similar results.
So, okay, here's the thing. In terms of Fallen, I mean, yeah, the first thing that invalidates that is he isn't even the best player on his own team, you know? So it's kind of problematic to suggest that he could be the best overall. And then I actually think part of the system is they managed to end up with that roster move, getting FNX and Taco, having some of the best role players in the world. Like, Taco came out of nowhere. No one would ever have recruited this guy. And eventually, on a couple of maps, trained notably, he had like one position he was the best at. So I think you add that in, and even Fallen's status within his team isn't as dominant. In terms of coldzera, I think that's the problem, is the system. If he had been someone where he'd been out there and he'd been on like a good team, but then he's just dominating all the time and that's why they win. Okay, I could see that. But you look at 2 of the tournaments he did quite badly at. He did quite terribly at IEM Katowice, and he was just like average at ESL 1 New York. And in both times, they made it to once the final, once the semi-final. Both times they had maps they were close to winning in. So the system was good enough that even when he doesn't even play well, they can almost win the tournament. Now, if you're the MVP, the most valuable player, you're not even the MVP of that tournament, of your team in that tournament. Other people in your team have carried you in that particular sense. So as fantastic as he is, he's got easily the best backing cast of all.
I think it's actually kind of a fucking strengthening the argument that he's the best player in the world when you say did quite terribly at Katowice when he was just barely under the 1.0 rating, barely under a positive rating. That's a sick way to have a terrible tournament. I mean, come on now. You can't bash the guy because he's part of his system. You guys just keep saying system all over. You can't take it away from him that he's performing his role within the team design.
Well, since you say that, yeah, like it's quite good to even have a bad rating only at one event. Well, imagine having good ratings at every event, even in a bad system, in a team with players that are all underperforming and team that can't even get to the final in some events, and you're still just killing it no matter what. Doesn't matter the opponent, doesn't matter the map. Actually, you've sort of strengthened my point there, so it's pretty good. Actually, I never thought of it that way, Mos. Good point.
No, I mean you're insane. Zipnik's played good for a good stretch of this year. He was one of the better players on that team throughout a good stretch. So don't act like he hasn't had the amazing players. For a time there, he was the best support player we had in the entire scene. So Device has had plenty of help around him, just hasn't accomplished all the accolades that coldzera has.
Yeah, if you want to pump best player of the year, your team still has to win, and Astralis hasn't been really winning since Kerrigan joined the team, so maybe Kerrigan's the best player on that team,
All right, get him off.
Okay, that one was a little much.
Take a point away. Take a point away. Quick now.
All right, we've never done this before. We're going to take points away from the Bears. No, I'm kidding. It's not necessary at all, I'm sure. I mean, all good arguments. Unfortunately for you, Eric, this wasn't about the good system, although he has produced a championship team, a good team. He is a good leader. It is not about his system. That does not make him the MVP. Device, I mean, Thorin, before the second half of the year, where have we seen Astralis? Something.
Is that a rhetorical? I thought that was going to be a rhetorical question.
Yeah, okay.
The correct answer. The correct answer is nowhere.
Okay. but I mean, all year long, we've seen this. What is it? Cold Zera. I'm kidding. It's Cold Zera. Cold Zera shown up all year long and brought some. He's brought his tool to the table, if you know what I mean. Like, he's put his op out there, and they pretty much stick this guy anywhere, and he's doing all kind of work. So, I mean, the championships speak for themselves. I mean, I don't know. Thorin, you look a little disgruntled, per usual. But
I know you need to get Moses on the board, so let's just get it out.
You know what? You're right. Let's give Moses a point. And I'm feeling like giving him 2, but I'll think about that one going into the next point. Let's go to question 4. What does CSGO or the competitive scene need in 2017 in order to grow? And let's start with, I think we started with you last time, Moses. So let's start with Eric.
Oh, hey, so true. So what they need to make the system, you know what? I'm tired of these old maps, all right? We've been playing the same maps for like 10 years. I want CS maps, all right? I want something different. I want something a little different, the same game. Let's have some hostages. Let's have a different map pool. Let's mix it up. Okay, maybe not completely change it, but, you know, add some salt, add some pepper to this mix. Like, it's just the same maps for the last 15 years. It's driving me nuts.
I'm going to assume you want capture the flag. So
as soon as he said hostages, I just zoned out.
You know what, Duncan, let's hear from you.
Okay, so I actually think a really key aspect to the scene that would make it a lot more interesting, because people complain so much about oversaturation. I think that really just translates as they want to see all the best teams at the same events. And we have a lot of events, but it spreads out the teams and where they compete. So I think a big problem that still needs to be figured out is how are we going to have online tournaments that get the best teams to the LAN tournament? Because Virtus Pro, Na'Vi, these top teams don't get to these offline tournaments. And that's why those big finals that should be huge end up just looking kind of like subpar or just good, you know, when they could be like 10 stacked events in a year instead. So I think that would really elevate the status of the game.
All right, Jason.
Yeah, I'm kind of in line with Duncan that I think the overall problem is oversaturation. But one of the ways that we improve upon that would help the scene immensely is we need these tournament organizers to step up the game in terms of production, in terms of the creativity, in terms of the excitement of the event. We need more tools to use. We need a better show. We need to put a better product out there for the viewers. So I think you look at ELeague and why they've been able to take over this whole scene by storm so quickly is because their production is bar none the best we have in the scene, and we need more of that. We need more improvement, and I think that will solve the oversaturation problem when people only want to tune into those events.
And I'm going to open the floor to all of you because this should be pretty good. And 4.5 minutes, go.
Okay. Can we all just agree can we all just agree to just drop Eric out of this argument here?
I'm down to hear the argument.
Like, you can throw a couple hostage maps in here. I mean, we don't have to completely get rid of the map pool, but it'll hand teams. It'll bring a different dynamic to the game, bringing something a little fresh to something new to the game. When you're seeing the same maps, the same strats almost every time, it's pretty. A lot of matches are repetitive in a way to where who hit their shots here instead of like, oh, let's just use more tactical kind of.
Okay, here's the thing, Eric. First of all great sports have a repetitive nature to them. You watch the NFL, they're using some of the same offenses that they used 20 years ago, but it's how you can execute it. That's what makes it really fun. In fact, actually, some of the repetition is important to understanding the framework of the game, to knowing how it should play out and to be able to gauge who did it well. You know, it can't all just be crazy flying dock strategies out of nowhere that no one's ever seen before. Secondly, you got to add in, I'm amazed that CS got this big while the aim of the game is to plant bombs and have a terrorist side. You can't have actual hostages in the game who you can kill and then sometimes just kill yourself to stop the other person taking it away. Like, you can't have that, Eric. That's not going to fly in this current geopolitical system. And then what was Moses? It was about oversaturation. Production, yeah. Now, I know where the basis of what he's talking about, you know, the bigger the show, like the more the spectacle, but let's be real. The only reason ELeague succeeded is because I was on it. And then when I went on it, the show really arrived. So at that point in time, I would say, yeah, pay me more and I'll do a better job.
Calm down, Pelicans. Over there. I mean, I'm not talking about a big spectacle, a big show, but we need more tools on screen that are going to help new viewers come in. And that even goes down to bash Eric's answer, because how crazy is that? You can't bring new viewers into a game with brand new maps every single time. The new viewers we've got coming in from other games and from outside of esports, they barely even understand the maps we have now. So if we're constantly changing those things outside of the bugs and outside of the tactical issues there would be, I mean, they just wouldn't even get it. It would just be so confusing every time around. I just don't think, as well with Duncan's answer, I don't think there's necessarily a format that we can do online to get all the top teams to events. And that's mostly just because teams and players just don't care about online games. They lose interest in it. I think the commentators and everyone, I think the viewers even lose interest in it because you can tell the players aren't taking it that seriously. I don't necessarily think there's an answer to this online system, like creating a good structure to an online league to get all the top teams there. I think we need more events. We need to have a show that's better for the viewers at all times. We need to be able to create tools that new viewers can understand how the game is played, how the players are, all the different statistics there are, and we need them to keep them honest to the core audience that we have. But we just need to be able to have better and more creative production.
See, Moses says all of that, like they need to create all these tools and all stuff, but that all costs money. And the problem is there's some events where you can't even get them to bring you exactly the right rock star, the one that you asked for, and only the rock star that you wanted and not that black one because it's not that good and you specifically asked for the white one. So if you can't even get someone to bring you specifically the right rock star, again, just only the white one, please. Then how are you going to get them to spend money for those tools? Can't even get rock stars in here. Just get the rock stars.
and those jerks bring in tacos every once in a while. Then you can't eat those either. So
exactly,
one could say ELeague seeded despite your demands, your ridiculous demands over and over again. But this is the thing. That's exactly how things get filtered out. The money that comes in from the viewers paying attention to this good level production, the teams who can't match that, they just fall out onto the wayside. That's the big thing we need, because that's going to be the difference.
Because if more money comes in, I'm just going to up my rates. Now, Eric, you said that you want some salt and pepper in there, right? You've got it wrong again. That's not even the mode. It's CS mode. Assault is the one where you have like the VIP and you have to help him get out.
All right, of course.
That is so bad. That is so bad.
He's in the building.
Gave me that Listerine face.
I mean, I just want some new spice, man. I'm tired of seeing the same old maps. I'm tired of it, and people get bored of that. That's why I want something new,
you can't say people
fresh.
get bored of it. How are you going to say people get bored of it when we have been using for them for 10 years and our viewership has been increasing? The maps being used repetitively isn't that big of an issue. I think that would actually be damaging. Duncan's idea is good, but I just don't think there's any feasible way, because we can create a structure for players to use, but if they just don't care about online matches, which is very, very apparent from those games, then there's just no fixing it. I mean, we have a team, Virtus Pro, who can win every LAN tournament they go to and can barely win matches online. I mean, that just says something right there. I mean, and that's just one team of the many.
Yeah, I mean, the whole bring hostage maps back, I don't really think that's going to fly. While spicing it up.
Close-minded.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Duncan.
Eric, no one wants to watch a team sit in a room with shotguns defending hostages for 2 minutes every round.
Or the bomb plant. I mean,
eloquent in his brevity.
Hold on, Duncan brings in a good point that
I mean, it's definitely a geopolitical thing, right? So it's already hard enough to try to market and sell the bomb planning, terrorist, counter-terrorist. There's too much of that going on in the world as there is. But I mean, obviously it's a toss-up between oversaturation and production, right? So if we have quality production, we can bring in, oversaturation may kind of level itself out in its way. If we have good quality production. Man, I mean, to be fair, it is on the production, or on the producers, it is on the organizers, it is on those entities to keep bringing in new user base, new clientele, new viewership.
Well, as much as I like your argument, Thorin, I'm just gonna look at him. Yeah. There is Mr. O'Toole. Let's go ahead.
Let's give Mr. O'Toole a point. Well argued by everyone except Eric, per usual. Not a problem. Let's go with question 5 here with the main question, the last one for the speed round. What 2 current players would you combine or merge to make the all-around best player? And Mr. Shields, please take the floor for 30 seconds and no more.
Okay, so I took Nico and Config because I think Nico has probably the most insane all-around skill package outside of maybe Simple. And the thing is, his style of play is, in general, it's a little bit more passive, he kind of goes slow and he takes his aim duels and he's just fantastic at that. But his main problem is he's from Bosnia and he doesn't really fit into any teams that aren't international teams. Now, Config is a very aggressive player, is a really great playmaker in that sense. I think you'd combine all kind of the skill sets of styles of play. And he's Danish, so this would make Nico capable of understanding Danish, the most talent-ridden scene, and he'd be able to be on Astralis. Case closed.
Well
you never
done.
thought of that angle, did you, boys?
And in 30 seconds, by far the most impressive part. Let's go, Jason. Let's hear from you.
All right, my two players, I took Flusha and I took Simple. You have Flusha, who's historically one of the best players in the majors. His skill set is unreal in terms of and the different things he can do. His game sense, his skill with utility, everything about it. And then you take Simple, who is, you can't even really argue that he's the most skilled player we have in the game right now, but he does have some issues with his decision making, which Flusha is much, much better at. I think you combine those two things, the temperament of Flusha really neutralizes how aggressive and angry Simple can get. I think you have a player where Simple brings in some up skills, and then you have a player who's good with every single weapon in every single situation.
And Mr. Stromberg, bestow your wisdom upon us.
Hear me out here, all right? So I picked Kenny S and Smiths. The reason for that is Smiths.
Is there any Smiths left?
He won't miss an op shot ever because he has Kenny S's op skill, and then he'll be the best team player because Smiths tossed all the smokes and flashes for his team. So it's the best probably team player in the game because he's opping and he's throwing flashes. What more do you want on a team than one of the best oppers / team utility players?
Wow, Eric, you might be in contention for a point here somehow, some way. I'm gonna let you do your thing here. I'm gonna open the gates for 4.5 minutes. Let's go.
All right. Well, I just want to attack Simple here. I always attack Simple on the show for the one reason, because he's probably one of the most toxic people I've ever seen in this game, well, at least publicly. I mean, you see him in every tournament. The camera's right on his face. You know, he's on the end of the road. Every time his teammate loses a one-on-one, he's just has this cringe face every single time. And I mean, you can't be a good team player if you're just deep down toxic inside. I mean, he has to take.
That's the point of merging it with Flusha. He's going to be cool as the other side of the pillow. Then it's all over.
Yeah, Flusha's that cool, huh? He's going to just completely negate Simple.
He just chills in the corner and lifts that mouse.
Okay. I don't know, but Kenny Smith, Kenny Smith right there. I feel like
Kenny's Jet Smith from the NBA.
They're both French. They can both, just combine and make the ultimate French team.
Right, I don't understand how them both being French is a positive here. They get to be French anyway by being merged. Remove a point from him that doesn't make any sense. Secondly, adding Kenny S and Smith. So basically, Smith in no way brings anything to the table except some vague thing in his brain about throwing flashes. Also, let's remember, if you're the star AWPer, you're not supposed to be throwing flashes. You're supposed to have a fucking AWP out and a scope on. That's the whole thing. The joke is, give me the AWP, guys. Why? I'm sick at flashing. How's that going to help? Actually, if anything, we should just remove Smiths from the planet altogether, just to have Kenny S there. That makes more sense for everyone. Secondly, in terms of most, I mean, Flusha and Simple. Now, I can tell you, there's a real misconception out there in the world, right? People think if you start cheating, that you just become way better overnight. But actually, initially, when you start cheating, first of all, it's hard to hide it. And then secondly, it can fuck you up knowing there's a guy behind that wall. So Simple's incredibly skilled, but you make him start cheating, and all of a sudden, he's going to might fuck with him. He might not be able to play it and hide it properly. And also, how's he going to handle it? Listen, Simple might seem on the outside like a toxic guy, but deep down, he cares. He cares about defrauding all those other top players of championships. He cares about looking like some reamed out fuck who washes himself a sponge on a stick. He cares about these things. You can't just do that to a guy, force his genetics into Simple. That's like some sort of fucking hate crime.
One thing. Sorry to interrupt you really quick. I just want to point out that Simple did actually cheat way back in the day too. So you pretty much merged two cheaters together. So I don't know if that
Eric's about to send me the assist. That's right. Simple's already used to it. There's going to be no adjustment period for that. But by the way, just to wreck you, Eric, you want to talk about giving Kenny the nade using skills of Smiths. Flusha consistently every event is like the best utility user in the entire game. He always has the highest nade damage. His flashbangs are on point.
What utility is that then? What applications is he installing?
Yeah, I mean, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We don't need to know these things. I don't need to know the details of how it gets done. But I mean, what Nico and config. I don't need that. Nico's just faded away, man. There's no skill set there. I think that's the real thing that we're starting to get exposed. I mean, yeah, he's got some good aim and everything like that, but he hasn't been able to put it to usage. He's really been struggling, and I mean, I don't see him.
Some of the best stats at this last tournament in the major qualifier. He had a 0.93 FPR. Get at me.
What about everything before that? What about everything before that?
Not winning.
Nico's team has plummeted in the past 3 months. That team looks fucking disgusting right now. So no, I don't want Nico anywhere near any of my players because he is in a slump right now. He's got the yips. I don't need that passed on like some kind of STD merging with someone's body. I don't want that shit.
I don't know what to say about that one.
Let's talk more about Smith's flashbang abilities, Eric.
Hey, listen, he self-proclaimed that he's a team player. He helps G2 win, and somehow G2 does still win.
Okay.
With him on the roster, all right. Even
Here's the other point you haven't thought about. So we're merging the players, remember? We're getting a bit of both. So who knows if Kenny S is even going to be comfortable having sex with Shocks? That might not be something to start to play with. He might not be comfortable with that. That might ruin their whole relationship and the whole team play. That might be where the synergy.
Edgy.
Oh, yeah, that's real.
I think we've exhausted all of the conversation that we can have.
I have no idea what on earth just happened in the past 4.5 minutes. Some very, very illustrative words thrown out there, some things I'd rather not have pictured in my mind. But nonetheless, this is a... God, dude. I mean, believe it or not, Thorin, your argument of Nico and Config is not a bad one because, I mean, Config is this up-and-coming new guy. I mean, people even speculated he cheated, but it doesn't matter because, they were not here to talk about cheating. But he's up-and-coming, he's hungry, he wants to win. Meanwhile, Nico might be on a ship that's falling or, whatever's going on there. It seems like there might be some internal stuff going on there that's kind of holding them back and hindering them. I mean, Eric, bro, I don't even...
You guys in your little box. You're thinking inside. I'm an outside box, all right? Okay. I'm always thinking outside. I'm always thinking of the great possibilities. What can happen? You guys are all defining your numbers and
like hostage map
statistics.
tournaments.
You know what? Hey, I didn't say the whole tournament. I said throw in a couple hostage maps here and there. Add a little spice to it.
Look, nonetheless, I have to give one of you a point, and unfortunately, Eric, you're going to miss out on the playoffs yet again. But somehow it was a contention between you and Duncan for the playoffs, which is nuts because I never would have forecasted the day. So congratulations, Mr. Shields. You are going to get to go head-to-head against Mr. O'Toole, while Mr. Niner is my jury, and I'm the judge going forward. So the way the next set works is I ask you guys the question. The first one to respond gets that answer and has to argue it. The other person has to pick a different answer, and then the timer will go for 30 seconds, and you'll correspond. All right, so question number 1 of the rapid fire round. Best tournament format.
I like the I like the Katowice. I like the round robin. I really do. I think that's very, very cool format to have. There's still some issues with it as there are every single one, but I think the big strength that it has is that there's a lot of you get a lot of 1v1s, you get a lot of games to watch, you get a lot of chances. There's going to be an upset, which increases excitement, which makes things a little bit crazy heading down the stretch when that starts to end. But the big thing about it is that it gives you a chance to recover from those. You can't just drop out in a BO1 or 2 BO1s. You get a chance to recover if you do get upset earlier on in the group stage.
Okay, Duncan, without attacking his argument, what is your choice?
Okay. I'll just go with the traditional GSL group stages into a single elim bracket, which is being used. I have to make the case. It's been used for the majority of the big tournaments in history. It's actually like a classic. Everyone knows kind of how it works out. It's very rare that teams that are bad have any chance of making it deep in these tournaments. There's no way to skip any rounds. You just go to the quarterfinals. And even if you win your group, you still have to play another team in the quarterfinals to go on. So I think there's a reason why it stood the test of time, and it makes up a lot of the best tournaments we've ever had.
Okay, I'm going to start the timer, and you guys are just going to go at it, all right? Ready, go.
The issue with that system,
okay, come on.
The issue with that system, Duncan, we saw it in the major. We have teams who can just win 2 BO1s and move on to the next phase who don't necessarily deserve to be there, as you can see when you get to the next round of tournaments, where they just happen to win 2 BO1s. They happen to play good twice, and now all of a sudden they're in the major. They're going to wreck the groups next time around.
So the problem is, in the format Moses is proposing, it's always been employed where you just skip to the semifinals. And I actually did an article that proves in history the teams that skip to the semifinals never win the tournament. So it's like the tournament itself is invalidating its own format.
Yeah, we're going with Duncan on this one. The GSL one has proven to be a long-standing format. No, okay. No worry, Moses. All right, calm down. Okay.
Getting triggered.
This one should be a good one. Question 2: iBuyPower, banned or unbanned?
Banned. I mean, there's only one other side here, Moses. So
I know. Well, I know.
Unbanned,
I thought you were supposed to explain your.
Okay, I'll do that. Right.
I'll take unbanned.
Okay. Go
Okay.
ahead.
So I'll say banned because the big problem is no one's actually figured out any kind of a way of figuring out like the punishment and what all this sort of thing would be. Like everyone who just says unbanned, I've never heard anyone give reasonable explanation of like what the gradation of punishment must be. So bearing in mind, okay, this isn't like where you've been banned from something in real life. Like you're not in actual prison, you know, with your whole life taken away. You're allowed to do everything else in life, including even sometimes commentate Counter-Strike. In theory, for as long as it's not for the majors, be a coach of someone. You can do all these other, you can create content. You can do all these things that your skills in Counter-Strike would let you do anyway. You just aren't allowed to play the big money tournaments, which you did yourself throw away with a massively unethical move, which really can't be justified on any grounds. So I don't think it's actually a ridiculous premise to suggest that if you do something as egregious as that, then maybe you shouldn't be allowed to compete again in a game that might only last a few years as a professional and make thousands of dollars.
I think you unban him because there's a couple of reasons. I think one of the obvious ones is that at the time, obviously, we know that this is not a moral decision, not a moral thing to do is fix this match. But at the time as well, there was no rule set up. There was no punishment set up of what would be happening or how it's even monitored. And that's the big thing. That sets a dangerous precedent now where Valve can just come out at any random point and say they don't like something and they can just ban you indefinitely. I think that's a dangerous precedent to give a company like Valve. Also, there has to be some kind of measurement for how much they actually got in money. I mean, it's not like they made like $50,000 each or $100,000 each. They made like $3,000 split up between the four of them or whatever it might have been. I mean, that's not enough money to have them a lifetime ban. I think they've paid the crime. They've missed out on a lot of money in terms of salary and prize pool. I think they should be allowed back.
Do we keep going?
30 seconds. You guys just attack each other.
Okay, so here's the thing. When he says there, you know, they only got like a few thousand each, you know, it's not like a lifetime ban. First of all, since Counter-Strike might only last like, let's say 5-10 years, let's be generous, you know, that might be the life of the game. So if they're just banned for 10 years, that is the life of the game. We're not talking about 50 years or something. So how about this? You go out tomorrow, you and Eric, and you do a bank heist where you each get $3,000 each in diamonds.
Let's
see if you're going to prison or not. And Eric's getting fucking ringed up. I'm outside the box.
Not everyone wants to be trapped inside their little ice cold ice box bedroom in a scarf and a coat making videos all day long. You took away competing. Competing to a player is like the best thing there is. That's what they need. That's what they want. They don't give a shit about making YouTube videos. They want to compete and they want to play, and that's got to be heartbreaking watching all these things go on and sitting on the outside.
I mean, they can go and play any other game. They can go play Overwatch. They can go play StarCraft 2. They can go play League of Legends. They can do literally almost anything in their entire lives except play highest level competitive Counter-Strike. By the way, they are not banned from tournaments that aren't Valve tournaments. Aside from the majors, they are technically, if the organizer allows, allowed to play any tournament. So they could have 99% of a good life like Eric. You know, he's not going to get everything. You know, he hasn't got all the genetics and all the learning and stuff, but he can still have a good life. You know, he can have popsicles. He can watch Ren and Stimpy reruns. There's still a lot in life, Moses, but does he? But if he steals $3,000, I'll put that motherfucker in a cage, mate.
There's a reason. There's a reason why none of the teams care about WESG coming up, despite the prize pool. It's not about the money. It's about the prestige of being at the major, the prestige of being on that stage in front of all those people, the prestige of being in front of all those viewers. That is the pinnacle in terms of the competitive spirit.
Okay. Well. The Ren and Stimpy thing, I should give you a point for that. That was pretty good, you know. By all means, good job.
It's like he knows me.
Look, I mean, I think the strongest argument here, and it's not even I mean, obviously what they did was wrong, but the fact that Valve has no rhyme or reason, that there is no how do I say this? There is no proceeding about this. There is nothing even preventing this in the future. The fact that Valve has been able to come in, like Jason said, and pretty much do whatever they want, whenever they want, leisurely, that cannot be a great system to operate under. Thorin mentioning the game's lifespan being so short, that's pretty sad. I'm actually going to leave now. So, nonetheless,
take a point away from him. Obviously hates Counter-Strike. He's ready to move over to Overwatch. Get him out of here.
I mean, technically, he didn't even say unbanned or banned for a time. He just said banned or unbanned. So your logic, Moses, they never should even have been banned. You actually just want anarchy. You just want rape in the streets. You want everyone to do anything they want. No punishment, anything.
Okay. All right. Relax. This is taking a turn, a dark turn.
All I'm saying, Stunner, is if you vote for him, you vote for rape in the streets.
Jeez. It's hard to beat.
Yeah, you know.
You can't tamper with a judge like that. Time's over.
Hey, this is America. We can get away with a lot, apparently. All right, so I have to give the point to Jason. I do, and all on the basis that Valve, there is, like I said, there's no rhyme or reason there. They're doing what they want, when they want, how they want.
But okay. Thorin, let's hear. Let's get one sentence from you of why we're all wrong. Or well, Jason,
because if iBuyPower hadn't have been banned, you'd have never got to Canoodle to that dog shit team Cloud9, and you'd also be complete bombs. A good case, right? Pretty good case. Remember good times in the summer, WC, EPL. That's all because of the ban.
Sounds like a bunch of what ifs there, Thorin. All right, so moving forward.
Question 3 of Rapid Fire. Best event of the year.
DreamHack Malmo.
I'll say MLG Columbus.
Okay, not bad. Go ahead, Jason.
Oh, I think DreamHack Malmo was an incredible event, and I think it starts with the fact I think even with Vegas coming up, we've seen these videos, these announcement videos. They have the voiceover work they've done, and I mean the tough thing is the easy way to win this one is to say that Duncan is the author of all of those epic videos. So I mean automatically you just know they're just going to be the bomb diggity. So that's pretty sick. In terms of the stage, in terms of the setup, I mean I don't think there's been a better produced event, big time. That big of an event that we've produced, and even what some people may not know behind the scenes was that was one of the first events where the talent was appropriately taken care of. I think everyone let it bleed through into the show, that everyone was having a good time, that this was very, very well done. We had Yanko the Weatherman. That was the first time that came into play. There's so many different things that came in from DreamHack Malmo that make this the best event of the year. And top of that, all the different upsets there were, all the different intensity of the playoff bracket. We had sick matches, we had sick group stages, we had sick playoffs. I mean, from beginning to end, I think Malmo was one of the better events.
All right, Duncan, let's hear it.
I mean, well, the really great thing about MLG Columbus is, first of all, it was one of those tournaments where basically every single really top team was in the field. You know, it was very stacked in that respect. The actual matches, we had some incredible games. I mean, think about when the Astralis guys were able to smash Fnatic, like one of the old enemies that had always been in their way. Obviously, Luminosity, now SK, go on to win the title. The first moment they really took the step up and won a massive title in an incredible fashion, only dropped one map over the whole tournament. Virtus Pro was still there. They had that close series against Luminosity, kind of like an omen foreboding for what Virtus Pro would do later in the year. Obviously, we had the run of Team Liquid going all the way to the semis. 2 NA teams got out of the groups. Hadn't happened in years and years. And then we have the great performance from Simple, and they ride all the way to the semis. And that semi will be one of the most memorable games of all time, where they had the match points over and over and over again. So I think what was great about this tournament was it had like the prize purse. It was the first $1 million major. It had the stacked tournament. It was in the wherever the Blue Jackets played, Nationwide Arena, the Columbus Blue Jackets, and it was like, it had everything. It had the prestige, it had the stage, it had the teams, it had the great matches, it had like, for example, obviously Cold Zera's graffiti moment. I think it was like a great all-around package.
Okay, I'm going to open the timer. You guys go at it.
Yeah. Well, the problem is Moses picked a tournament that was a week after my tournament. And so mine was the major. It was $1 million. Everything mattered. You know, this is all we play for. This is our whole lives. And then a week later, I've got another tournament. Yep. If there was ever a quiz thing,
listen, Duncan,
definitely wouldn't be.
You can make it the major all you want, but the big issue with that event was we saw the issue with Guardian with his injury. We saw the issue with Olaf Meister and his injury. 2 of the best players, probably the 2 best players in the world at that time, could barely even play the fucking event. So I mean, I don't know how you can make that the best one. And you have two NA teams getting out of the group stages. Yeah, they faced in the quarterfinals. Like that's an easy ride for one of them into the semis. I don't think it was really that competitive once we got into the playoff bracket because of that. And those injuries just brutalized that event for me.
Okay, so Moses is saying that, like, you know, obviously just because some Brazilians won, how good an event could it have been? I mean, I don't hold that as one of the all-time great teams personally.
We did have the great the line establishment at that major. There was a couple nice tweets that came out of there.
This was a lot of spice. So
yeah, and Malmo also had, by the way, Malmo had the return of Guardian. That was the secret announcement that came out like right before the event started. That was sick. That was an extra storyline to it.
Yeah, so he returned, and then in the final he completely disappeared from his team, and it made it kind of like a whack final. It could have been an all-time great final. Had all the maps sorted for it. In the end, just kind of sucked the proverbial rich.
You're just mad because that IP won it.
Love an IP. Love Brazilians as well.
Proverbial Richard. That was a nice touch. Eric, I mean, how are you feeling about these 2 events?
I mean, they're both pretty good events, but I have to lean towards the MLG, just of the Cold Zera and everything.
He's been reaming you out. What kind of bad Stockholm syndrome is this? He's been reaming you out this whole show.
It was a good event. I mean, it's a pretty memorable event. That's when Luminosity won. They came back and that's when the kind of almost like they started their run, and then turned into SK today, and it's a pretty significant event. So that's why I chose that one.
You know, I'm just going to be honest. I was siding towards the Columbus thing too. And I mean, Jason, they even chanted your name in the entire arena. I mean,
what's not to love about that? Right?
Let's not argue reasons against it. So.
All right. Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's not even just the fact that there was a lot of cool things that came out of that. Let's talk about the NA crowd.
Can I just
let's
say
talk about
one
NA
extra
crowd?
thing?
NA.
Actually, I've got one time.
No. Okay. So
this won't sway you much, but actually at that event, it was even better because we got one of the greatest sound bites of all time where Moses was hot mic'd saying "GG motherfuckers."
It's pretty next level, isn't it? My mom was in the crowd when I said that. She wasn't too happy.
She's a little upset. It's okay. It's okay. I know.
I thought Duncan was actually going to go the payment route because MLG is one of the few organizers that's known to pay within like a week of the event, and they actually like give you your paycheck like at the last day of the event. So I thought you were going to go with the Skrilla route.
He's actually building your argument. This is great. This is working out more and more for you. But I mean, nonetheless, MLG Columbus, I think we can all kind of agree that was, except for you, Jason, you are the odd man out.
I think you're all wrong, and I maintain that position forever.
Listen, we're going to give the point to Thorin. And this next one could seal the deal right here. So I'm just going to present it to you. The best roster transaction of 2016.
Oh. Okay, I'm going to say Glaive to Astralis.
Moses?
I am going to say... Was it Magis to Dignitas?
Okay. Well, let's hear it, Thorin.
Okay, so even though it was late in the year, there was still sort of the last few months of the year. Astralis, you can see how, like, you remember we were talking about roster move. You have to look at where the team was before, where were they afterwards, and what was the difference between the gap between Astralis before and after Glaive joined was huge because beforehand they were a good team, but they weren't even getting out of groups in some of those tournaments. They were really struggling. Famously, they always lost to NIP, even when NIP weren't even in super sick form. You could always rely on them to, like, Device would have superstar numbers, but they wouldn't win as a team. Their pick ban had completely been destroyed. And it was at the point where if they didn't change the in-game leader, they were going to have to just break the whole team up. So they made this move, brought in Glaive, and at all the tournaments since, they've had a fantastic run. They got out of their group, even though it had Na'Vi and SK in it at ELeague. They obviously made it to the final of ELeague, beating SK on all their best maps, beating NIP, narrowly lost to Optic thanks to an amazing performance from Optic. But okay, they go back the next tournament, ECS. They almost get to run it back again, play Optic in the final. They win that tournament in incredible fashion, just stomping pretty much almost every team at the tournament. And right now, they are actually primed to probably be the favorite to win the next major. And this is from a team that beforehand weren't even considered a favorite to win any tournament before Glaive came in.
Yeah, well, I mean, with Dignitas bringing in Magis Boy, I think that was like the key to them. I mean, that bringing in a player of that level. By the way, the player only had like one good tournament when he went as SK before he came over. Before that, he was one of those guys where everyone just thought he cheated, where he was an onliner. Dignitas as well just didn't seem to have enough firepower. There's all this talk about how MSL was the most important to their victory. But when they get MSL and they put him next to Config, now all of a sudden they have the strength, they have the power to actually be able to compete and to be able to fight. So him coming to that roster created a contender out of nowhere. I mean, they won Epicenter Moscow, one of the great tournament runs that we've had this year. And I think on top of that, with MSL's leadership that he already had before having enough strength and enough firepower, they have a very deep map pool. I mean, much like Astralis, there's not a single map that Dignitas has that I think really you can say that they're going to just get blown out on. So I mean, this is a team that went from pretty much nothing, like a strong, like a decent tier 2 team, to all of a sudden a contender in every single tournament we have.
Okay, starting the timer and go.
So the guys from Astralis, when Glaive came in, not only went from being like decent untrained to good, they went to arguably being the best trained team. They literally snapped SK's 17-game winning streak, which actually, put in place the move that caused SK the best team of the year to change their own roster. Then you got to add in that you can't count anything from before Glaive joined against Astralis, whereas we look at them since Magix has joined Dignitas, they bombed out in DreamHack Winter. They couldn't even get out of the groups there. They couldn't even win in the quarterfinals of ELeague, despite the fact that some of the best test books in the world had them winning that match. I know how to play this game, motherfucker. This is so cool.
I mean, barely one of the best experts. But I mean, the thing with Astralis coming in, I mean, or Glaive coming into Astralis, I don't really think there was that big of a change. I mean, I think part of it is all device getting better and much more comfortable with the AWP. The other thing is Astralis had just very obviously lost faith in Kerrigan's calling. They didn't want to follow him anymore. I think the morale was different. So yeah, roster change is going to change that. But Glaive coming in himself, I don't think he's really done a whole lot to actually improve that team, where Magisboy actually gives them what they need to make this team work.
So he says all he did is just bring faith. You know, they just lost faith. If a man comes to you and he speaks to you and you hear his words and you have faith and you can accomplish great things, I think some people in this country, the United States of America, Moses, would say that's a great man. That's a Martin Luther King. That's a Gandhi. That's a George Washington. I don't really know.
Listen, I used to have faith. I used to have a lot of faith in you when you talked, Duncan, but then you went 0-7.
That qualifier though did definitely get more predictions right at the qualifier, which was more teams. It's more of like a skill.
One prediction. Let's not focus on that because you got one better prediction than me. But at the actual playoffs of ELeague, you had zero, Duncan. That's never happened. That's never happened.
Solely that one result, then I got 100% more than you.
Listen, some silver guy could go on Pick'em and get better than 0% any day of the week. You couldn't do that.
Really like discrediting the work of analysts. I think that all analysts are pretty good.
Oh, how the tides have turned. All right.
All lies. Faith is lost.
Okay. Well, because, I mean, Moses grabbed his balls and went for Thorin's throat. So, I mean, that almost is point where...
Usually the other way around.
Well, all right.
Oh, gee.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Glaive joining Astralis at this point is kind of like has added that extra bit of firepower to them. But Magisboy's nuts. So either way, I mean, you both have a pretty fair argument there in your picks for roster transactions. I mean, Eric, what do you got?
I'd say it was SK. How about that?
You're not even part of this game.
SK wins the point. All right. Well, let's move forward. No.
It'd be so next level if he said Fox joining SK. That's the
no, not that one. I'm talking about earlier there.
Be involved.
Well, first of all, both of them make pretty good points, but Astralis was already a good team, and Glaive made him that much better. But Dixon Toss was barely even on the map, and then when Magisboy joined, he just started. They actually won a tournament, and now they're like at least easily a top 7, top 5 team when they want to play at a tournament. So, I mean, that's what I think.
I think, I mean, the Astralis move, they just broke the cusp of getting some more or actual W's there with Glaive. So, I don't know, man. 0-7's pretty damning, though, Duncan.
Not really being judged at all in this equation, so not really sure how it's relevant.
Well, you went 0-7, therefore you get no point. No.
0-8?
Tell you what I'm going to do. Here's what we're going to do. I think, I mean, in all reality, this one has to be Glaive going to Astralis as being like that roster transaction. Like, I think it does.
What is this?
But because it's my show and because I get to decide who gets the point, Moses gets the point, and you guys don't even get to really argue the next one. You get to pick your answer, and then you get to argue it over 30 seconds. That's going to be our tiebreaker, all right? Here is the question. And because this is a holiday edition and the final episode of Put Up or Shut Up for this year, I'm going to go with this ridiculous-ass question right here. Is Santa Claus real?
No.
Yes.
And by all means, if someone's going to argue the point for yes, I believe it's going to be Duncan.
You ready?
So, here's 30 seconds, you guys. Prove it. Let's go.
So here's the thing. Santa Claus was never actually meant to be a person. What he actually represents is the Amanita muscaria mushroom, also known as fly agaric from Northern Europe. And what happens is the fly agaric mushroom is the toadstool of European mythology. Remember, look, it's got a top it's a white base and it's got the red top with the white spots.
Listen,
on it.
Duncan,
now that's Santa Claus. Listen, do not interrupt me. That is Santa Claus's coat. Also, in their culture, in these northern areas, the shamans, when they eat the mushroom, when they go outside to urinate, what happens is the smell of that urine actually draws in what what do you call them? The reindeer, actually, and they drink it. They actually like the taste of that particular mushroom. And then when they drink it, that actually has an effect on them. That's why the mythology is that they fly through the air. Also, to dry the mushrooms, you place them onto pine trees along the branches, just like the baubles. That is where all of Christmas comes from. It's actually the mythology of shamanism in northeastern Europe, and Santa Claus is real because he represents a culture that is about psychedelics and shamanism in Europe.
Holy shit, Duncan! You could have just you could have literally made all of that up, and I'd believe you. But by all means, Jason, please debunk this myth.
Listen, I don't like to talk about. I don't like to think about pissing out mushrooms and having other people drink it to fucking trip their face off or whatever it might be. You got to know your audience, Duncan. When we say Santa Claus here, we're talking about the legend of the fat jolly man who comes down your chimney, leaves presents under the tree. That guy does not exist. I mean, we see Anders. There's no way Anders can fit down a motherfucking chimney chute. There's no way he's going to be delivering presents or coal to Duncan, as it would be. So, I mean, there's no logical reason that you think someone's going to fly around the entire world hitched up to, reindeer tripping their faces off. He's going to crash land wherever he goes and never be able to deliver mushrooms or presents. Deliver mushrooms, yes. Deliver mushrooms, yes.
True, it was told to him. It got inside his brain, changed his whole worldview, and he eventually saw presents as mushrooms. And he eventually was like, "Yeah, I won't get presents. I mean, shit, mushrooms. What am I doing?" I think I win.
Moses,
just give it to Duncan.
Yeah, it is what it is. God bless, man. All right, congratulations, Thorin, on your was it three-peat? And somehow you turned me into a Santa Claus believer in the last 30 seconds. So good job on that as well. I want to thank you guys for participating. Thank you guys for coming out today. I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves. Thorin, I'm going to let you give your shout outs, and then we're going to close this bad boy out.
Always good to hear Eric, and whatever he comes up with, he indeed does think outside of the box. Problem is, it's a game show that takes place inside 3 boxes, and you have to actually answer questions that relate to Counter-Strike. So if this was about like some sort of psychedelic show, then he'd be wicked for that. He'd be all over the place. Always nice to see Moses. Obviously it was tough for him at that qualifier, knowing he was actually intellectually inferior to me on a mathematical level. But I thought I'd give him a few points on this show, help him get back in the game, get his spirits up there. Otherwise he was gonna have to take a get right style sabbatical for the next year and go and coach.
Holy shit. All right, Jason, anything you would like to say before we close it out?
Listen, you guys don't understand the horror that I've gone through this past season of having to spend time in a grade room with Duncan, always hearing his insanity demands of, no, I do not want, where's my white rock star? Why is there only black here? Why is this one has got sugar in it? Not to mention at 8 a.m. when you see him taking that first sip of Rockstar, you just know it's going to be a long day. So I am ready for this holiday break. I am going to just let my brain relax. I've been dealing with a lot these past few months. And then yeah. So have a happy holidays. Duncan, go take some mushrooms, your Christmas mushrooms, fly around like those reindeer. I don't know what it is you do in your free time.
All right. Well, I thank you guys for coming out to Put Up or Shut Up. Thank you, Eric, as always. And I hope you guys have a happy holiday season. And to you people at home, can also have a happy holiday season. By the way, Dignitas asked if your Yeezys are fake. Thorin, ex-Dignitas, is it true?
Definitely not. I've got that sick Skrilla, and I spend it on shit that amuses 12-year-old kids and trainers.
Why do you want to be entertaining 12-year-old kids, Duncan?
All right.
Want to want it fat man shoved down your chimney.
Okay, that's enough of this. Thank you guys for coming out, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. What the fuck, guys? You guys are out of fucking control. Jesus Christ.